Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fly Nubian Money. I am Lala, international real estate agent, and today we are taking a deep dive into the policies of Vice President Kamala Harris. As the first Black and South Asian woman to hold the office, Kamala Harris has introduced and supported various policies that impact everything from healthcare to criminal justice reform. But how are we feeling about these policies? Are they truly addressing the needs of the community? So let's unpack some of it today. However, before we move forward, I must introduce my beautiful queens today on the panel. We have Athena Gardner, who is our CPA and wealth coach. We have Moya, our tax professional. We have Marlo Layson, TV and film producer, and Vanessa Gopal, who has a master's in public policy and economic development. She is a business owner and a luxury travel advisor. Hi, ladies. I love all your beautiful smiles this morning on Monday. Now, listen, ladies, we actually have had a lot of people asking us this for weeks now. And of course, now we're getting down to the nitty gritty of actually getting to the DNC. Now, the RNC has already had their go-to thing, but now we are doing that. And I think that some of these policies were kind of held back a little bit just as we're getting closer to the DNC convention that's coming up. So I want to take a look at some of her policies before we actually start diving in, because I want to get your initial reactions. Here's some of the things that she is on the economic agenda that she's doing. New home buyer subsidiaries, and she's talking about like $25,000 toward each person who is a brand new homeowner. Tax child credits, which we know is extremely important in our communities. Lower prescription drugs. Y'all, this is so big right here. I cannot believe what people like in my family are paying for prescription drugs, and a federal ban on price gouging, which we are actually seeing. And so let's look at some of the breakdowns of, kind of what Trump and Harris are separating on, so that we can focus on what it is that she's doing. On the abortion side, she favors guaranteeing in federal law abortion access. She's never changed that. This is also Biden's platform as well, under her being vice president under Biden. She promises to block any potential nationwide ban and the protection for women who travel to obtain abortions, and limit how law enforcement collects medical records. Now, on the red side for abortion, which is GOP, Trump brags about appointing the Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe versus Wade, which he still stands firm on, says decisions on access and cutoffs should be left to the states. And he also says it should also be left up to the states to determine whether to prosecute women for abortions or to monitor their pregnancies. Okay, so that is the abortion standpoint. So let's look at the economy, because this is where a lot of people get nitty picky and they kind of want to see what's going on. So under the Harris agenda, she focuses on expanding middle class opportunities, including mortgage assistance, tax credits for parents, and combating inflation, supports the continuation of Bidenomics, including investments in infrastructure and green energy, and opposes taxing tips and advocates for economic stability and dignity for the middle class. Let's look at Trump. He advocated for tax cut and deregulation during his presidency, including the 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act. He focused on economic growth through lowering corporate tax rates and reducing government regulations, and emphasized job creation and economic nationalism, including tariffs on imports to protect American industries. So these two, let's just start with these two. Let's just slow it down a little bit, because I already know that the comments are going to be like, what about this and what about that? Well, we're not going to rush through those. We're going to just talk about those two and how they actually affect our community. Marlo, have you actually had the opportunity to look at some of these policies, or did you kind of know where she stood on this? And what are your initial thoughts on how this is going to affect our communities?
Well, I think if you ask an economist, most of these they don't like these policies, mostly because depending on the economist that you ask, many of them lean toward corporate uh, profits, right? So it will, it could cause inflation, this housing plan, right? If every new home buyer has $25,000 to go out and aid them in buying a home, we may see an imbalance of where we are now, right? Where there is less supply and higher demand. So I think that it depends on who you ask. But if economists don't like a financial plan or a president's economic outlook, typically it will help working class people because typically they lean in toward company and company profits. So it remains to be seen. Typically they don't roll out these policies until the DNC and after. That's typically how this works. I know people wanted it more because of the quick change that we experienced when Biden decided that he wasn't going to continue to run. But I think that over the next few days of the convention, the higher profile Democrats will roll out a little bit more of these policies, explain them a little bit better night by night. So I think on the surface it looks good, but anytime you have economic policy, it depends on who you ask, right? Because wealthy people who lean toward investor side and people who make capital investments are not going to like the apparent or the appearance of the spreading of wealth, as they say, and equally testing consumer prices and saying you can't gouge. They want to make maximum profits, right? So saying price gouging will be illegal or it'll be banned, obviously people don't want to hear that because they want to be able to gouge prices. So it remains to be seen.
I think it all remains to be seen, but I want to say up front before I even move on to the other queens, here's what I believe, and y'all gonna laugh, but it's true. I believe they make all these promises and then they have really good intentions. I mean both sides, okay? I mean all sides. And they have really good intentions, but then the day they get in that Oval Office, somebody walks in with this big book and says, "Hello, Mr. or Mrs. President." You know all those promises that you promised? Here's the book. Here's why you can't do them. There's so many ways that they can promise things, but don't forget there is a system to our government. So, Athena, do you think that the initial things that we've talked about, do you think they align with our community? And what are your initial thoughts about her stance on that?
I think the initial things that you guys have outlined do in line with things that can help our community, being able to afford housing, being able, I was reading some of the data that we have, not proposing not raising taxes for people who make 400,000 or less. But I think the issue, and I'm sure that we will expound on this further on in the conversation, is I don't think there is anything specific to us that we are getting. Right now, there is the DNC happening starting today, and I was looking at the agenda, and I was seeing the times that the Black Caucus was meeting. So I wanted to actually watch that to see if we're actually going to ask for anything in specifics. And I think Kamala has also stated that she will not be doing anything that specifically aided towards us, but the policies in general should help us. So I'm curious to see what will unfold in the next coming days. But I do think that generally these policies will be beneficial to us. But who knows, just like you said, it may not even be put into once she gets into office.
Well, it's remained to be seen. I mean, I don't think, regardless of what we do, anybody's ever going to always be happy. Someone's always going to have to complain, regardless of what side it is in. They're going to fuss. But Moya, I love, honey, you have set up your face like, I need to hear what your thoughts are on what you're thinking about the initial policies that we actually talked about.
So I live in California, so a lot of these things I've actually seen in place. Like, for example, for taxes, we give anybody from 0 to 5 an extra $1,000, like the California does, for their tax rebate. So when she's saying she wants to give them from 0 to 1 an extra $1,000 as well, that makes a huge difference. I see the look on these moms' faces when they're like, What? I'm getting back what? That $3,600 tax credit that gets expanded? Oh my God. That's amazing. Now imagine if you have 2 kids, that's $7,200. 3 kids, we're talking about over $10,000. This is life-changing money that we're talking about, and we've seen it. Like, these are things that we've seen. We haven't seen the $25,000 down payment, but these other things that she mentioned, we have seen. The $35 incident cap, who is infected by diabetes the most disproportionately? It's us. So when you can cap it at $35, oh my God, we're talking about not so much life-changing only like figuratively, but literally, because you don't have to decide now between, oh my God, what am I going to eat? Because that also affects your diabetes. And do I buy my insulin? That conversation now has been strongly minimized. So, I definitely believe that those have a strong impact on us directly as Black community.
Totally agree. When I said that medications, especially in my family, after so long, their copay on the Medicaid went out, right? And it's diabetes directly. And when that runs out toward the end of the year, when it's Christmas and everybody's trying to eat and stay warm and keep their heat on, and I'm talking about Kentucky in this situation, but I too have been in California for like 15 years. That at the end of the year, the shots are like $1,000. And and they barely are making it. So I think this makes a huge difference. Now, Vanessa, I left you last, but not because I don't love you, but because I know you got a deep dive into this, because this is kind of your wheelhouse. So I would like to hear what your initial thoughts are on the first 2 topics that we talked about with Kamala.
So I too live in California. I think the intention is good with a $25,000 down payment. I don't really understand how it's going to get regulated within the state. I don't understand how they're going to really regulate that policy, how they're going to get it going in 4 years. I also think that it's not that Black people can't afford to buy houses, at least in California, because I know a lot of us here pay rents 2,000, 2,500 a month. That is the normal price. I think that we need to focus on programs like there's a program called NACA, and that's NACA. Uh, if you want to look it up, if you're looking for a home buying program, it's a great program. But what they do is they look at your bank statements for the last 2 years. If you have been able to pay a certain amount of money, then you will automatically qualify for that amount in a mortgage. Additionally, they take care of your closing costs, your mortgage insurance, and your down payment. If we're really talking about helping Black people obtain home ownership, then I think we need to sort of replicate programs like this that actually work. Giving people $25,000, I think it's going to, I don't think it's going to help. First of all, I think that you're going to inflate the market. You're going to cause inflation. Um, it's just basically going to cause the supply and the prices to go up. That's what I believe. If you really want to change the market, you need to allow people to be able to qualify easier for these homes. It is extremely difficult to qualify for a home. First of all, your debt, if you have any type of debt, it's working against you. If you have student loan debt, if you have debt from a credit card, even though you've been paying your bills, even though you've been paying $3,000 a month for a rent, they're telling you that, oh no, you can't qualify for this $500,000 loan, even though your mortgage would be less than the rent. So I think that's the bigger issue here. I think the regulation needs to be removed. I think we need to look at programs like NACA. I've known people who have used programs like NACA. It is truly life changing. I have a girlfriend that bought a property in San Pedro for $650,000. She was paying, almost $3,000 a month in rent. She wouldn't have been able to qualify because of her student loans, but because of their reinventing how you can apply for mortgages, it allowed her to buy the property. She held on to it for 5 years. She sold it, got a ton of equity out. She's now developing properties in Detroit. So I think when we talk about changing the system economically for Black people, it isn't just handing out $25,000 checks. So that's my take on the economy portion of it. In terms of healthcare, I agree with everything that the other queens are saying. I think that the scary thing, if you put somebody like Donald Trump in office, is he wants to overturn the Affordable Care Act. I think that would be a horrible thing. We've all seen what this nation looks like when people can't get health care. It creates a bigger problem. It creates a higher tax burden for the people who do pay taxes. And it creates actually, I think, more cost on a corporation or a hospital because they have to treat and they have to just go to the emergency room. So, that's my take on healthcare and the economy.
If you're just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as you can see, we tackle topics that are important to our community. So you don't want to miss a show. In order to always find out when we're on, all you got to do is take your little assistant, this little old Siri right here. I call her Marilyn Monroe because I just like Marilyn Monroe better. I don't know why I just do. Or Betty Boop, 1 to 2. All you got to do is type in the words Queens, Queens, to 87948, and you'll be notified when we go live. Now, listen, we also are on Spotify, and I absolutely love that. I actually went in this weekend and listened to a lot of things that we said. Yeah, I'm kind of crazy like that. I know we talk about it, but I also like to listen to us too in case I missed something. So please go on over to Spotify. Type in Fly Nubian Money, subscribe, and make sure you leave us a 5-star rating because that really does help us out. Now, we're going to get back into this. Boy, I know you was point. Going back to you. I want you to tap on to what you needed to say before we move on.
Really quick, I definitely agree with what Vanessa was saying. One of the things that we have had is a $7,500 home buyer's credit for a period of time. And so what that is, it's something similar to what Vice President Harris was mentioning for the $25,000. So they do keep track of it, especially when you're going in and you don't have to pay it back. And usually they give it to you in the form of a tax credit. So that way you have access to it still. So we have done, when we say we, I mean, as a nation, as a country, something similar when we were offering down payment assistance. Because as Vanessa was saying, people in California, while we're used to paying high amounts, we usually don't have access to that down payment. So when we talk about closing that racial wealth gap, that's a key factor into it.
And y'all are talking my wheelhouse because real estate is mine. I've been in real estate since 2016, and I have sold and have listings right now and helping buyers right now that are participating in these programs. I just got an email today from Los Angeles County that they have money again. And I have been teaching since 2006, and I do home buyers class with nonprofit organizations such as NACA. And if you take these classes, which is usually one Saturday out of the week, and you get educated from the very tippy top all the way to the end, they give you a certificate, and that certificate allows you to get down payment assistance. So it's not impossible. And I absolutely love, Vanessa, that your friend bought a San Pedro. That was me. I live in San Pedro. I love it. And the houses are great down there too. So, but you see what she said. What she did is she invested into that home, and now she's getting into other investments. So home ownership is something that is near and dear to my heart with these programs. But let me explain to you what is going on, why housing is so important, not just in California, because what people are not understanding is from the previous administration, as well as previous administrations, they always gave the power to the corporations. So the corporations were buying up the land. They were buying up the houses. They were renting them out. They're building whole subdivisions, y'all. I mean, big, beautiful subdivisions where they're not for sale. They're for rent and rent only. So you get to play home ownership, but you don't get the home ownership benefits. And with the things that they're proposing with this new plan is that corporations have to back up off of this. There is a shortage all across America because corporations are allowed to do what they want. And then when they get them and raise the rent so high, people can no longer afford them. That's just one of the reasons we have an issue. One of the reasons. There's many others, but with housing, I bet if right now, if you pulled up your phone and looked for a house to buy, you're going to also find whole subdivisions for just to rent. So if you want home ownership, you can do it. It's funds out there, whatever state. whatever state. Okay, let's tackle some of these comments that we have. I love how we are so quick. Someone asked about NACA, and the website is right there. It's www.naca.com. I have worked with NACA as well, but be prepared to be ready to wait, because they make you a responsible homeowner. They don't rush you through that program. You got to be ready. And they look at everything and help you get your credit together and everything. So don't expect to go sign up for it now and buy a home next month. It doesn't work that way. They're going to make you a responsible homeowner. Michael Ferguson says, we'll push the pricings of home higher. I don't understand what you mean by that. I need you to expound on that, please, Michael. Maybe I'm missing first part of your comment. What makes you think that the pricing of homes are going higher? I'd like to hear your second thought about that. Byron says she does need to have multiple ways to get us our money. Yes, she does. And as you can see, any of these will benefit our communities as well. G-Man says she has to walk a fine line because corporations will turn against her. It's about greed. It is about greed, but guess what? A lot of these corporations donate to both parties for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear what I said? Mark it down in your book. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got going on here. Buying the votes too. I don't know about buying votes, but okay. Dwayne says the funds are there. On the other hand, is the mindset of the individual there to become a homeowner. Consistency and determination, got to have a plan. You are very much correct. I had to think about that for a second, Michael. I'm sorry. Mary Jo says NACA is good. We were able to get a new mortgage, a 30-year mortgage 15 years ago at 2% interest rate. I'm so proud that you all are talking about all of this, because this does help our community. So let's go ahead and move on, because this is a big topic. Okay, guys, it's a big topic. We're not going to be able to cover every single thing today. So we're trying to get you the most important key things that we know she has shown us right now. But don't forget, the DNC is this week, and we'll want to make sure that we tune in and listen to the other things that she is going to stand on her platform. So let's pull up a couple of other situations that they differ on and what her platform is. But let's look at this before we move on, because this directs everything that we're talking about. Poverty rates. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the poverty rate in 2022, 19.5% Black Americans and 8.1% for white Americans. Can you see? That is double, y'all. That is double. But there are resources out there. But what are they going to do to help us to lift ourselves up as well? A lot of the platforms thing that she's talking about says that that's what they're going to do for us. But what else are they going to talk to us about for our communities? Like, what type of funds, what type of support are they going to give us for education? That is a big one. That is one that we definitely need to talk about, because our kids are suffering. So 81% of all voters believe policies that make college, technical schools, and other post-high school trainings more affordable for all who wanted would help people like them. This also includes what's going to happen, y'all, if they're going to ask about school loans. What are we going to do about that? Athena, what are your thoughts on the education? What do you think that they should do to help turn about our education? Because let's be very clear. Kamala is saying they want more funding for the schools. The other side are trying to make privatization of schools a thing. And if that happens, our public schools will suffer greatly. What are your thoughts on the education?
When it comes to education, I just want them to at least do what they were trying to do with Biden's run, which at least honor the student loans. I know they've been having pushback with the Supreme Court, but I think the student loan issue especially would be helpful, because to what you guys were saying, a lot of people cannot qualify a lot for housing because of the amount of debt of student loans. I know people who have like 100,000 student loan, 120,000 student loans, right? So when it comes to that debt to income ratio that is often used to see how much house you can qualify for, people are being priced out of looking at housing, especially in states like Florida, like where I live, are being pushed out because they cannot afford or qualify. Even if they can afford the payment, they cannot qualify for that home. When it comes to education in general, I do think that um, more investment needs to be made when it comes to public education. We can't just privatize the whole education system, right? It's not going to be helpful for people who need general education as well. And I do think that we need to look at, as far as college and trade school and technical skills, some more investments from the government in that area. I believe if we have money to fund wars, we most certainly have money on a federal level to invest in the education of America. I know there's an agenda to not educate the American population, because an educated population makes different types of decisions, right? And can think for themselves and push back. But I think it's very important that we make these investments.
I agree. Because let's face it, education, let's look at this slide. Educational attainment. The National Center for Education Statistics reports that in 2021, 25% of Black adults aged 25 to 29 had a bachelor's degree or higher, and 45% of white adults in the same age group. Once again, guys, that's a pretty big disparaging number there. But Harris focuses on affordable tuition, and that could impact some of these statistics. This dates back so long, guys, about education. When it already started back in Reagan's era and even beyond, when he decided to privatize schools and all the things that were going on with that. But we continue to see that this is a struggle when people go to school, get their education, get a degree, in some cases master's degree, and then they get out and they can't even work the job that they went to school for. Vanessa, what are your thoughts on this? You do a lot of thought into economics and things of that matter. So what are your thoughts on the educational aspect of what needs to be done for our community? And do you think Harris can deliver this?
Y'all about to be mad at me for this response, but I agree with privatizing education. And hear me out when I say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. How many times have we seen, are we going to watch our public school systems in our communities fail? I mean, I'm a product of a public school, and we, we had like a program, we had a lot of funding, and that created kind of like a smaller classes. It gave us laptops in an era, but it was very different than the rest of the classes. And you saw our graduation rates were higher. But my belief is that we spend about, on average, $12,000 to $14,000 per pupil. I believe in a pod system. I believe that if you gave that money in the form of a voucher and you had 7 to 10 students, you hired a teacher for that. You had, maximum 1 to 10 ratio, and our students were taught history, our history. Our students were taught financial literacy. Our students were taught things that are important for the well-being of them, as opposed to just throwing them in a public school system that watches them fail time and time again. We know that kids get passed to next grade levels without learning how to read and how to write. Well, teachers are dealing with, classrooms that have 30 kids in it. Yet we're paying all this tax money. So just imagine if you're taking $14,000 and you have, 10 kids, and you're able to pay this teacher $60,000. Now in California, it may be a little bit more, but I mean, other states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Minnesota, the rest of the Midwest, and a lot of the other areas, besides California and in New York, where the salary would be higher, but you could afford to pay a teacher. You could rent, a cheap classroom. You would only have to do instruction for about 4 hours of the day. They could go participate in, YMCA programs or Boys and Girls Clubs. I strongly am against just giving more money to public schools. They have, failed, especially in the inner city communities. Even in the suburban, yeah, I now live in the suburbs, we fund our public schools. So a lot of the parents have money to go in and give the school additional money. So our kids get art programs, our kids get tutoring. But when inner cities don't have those type of resources. So I just feel like the money is not being spent. You know, to the best of its ability, I believe that we need to reduce class sizes. We need to get teachers that care about the things that we need in our community, which is financial literacy, history, things that will help us. So that's my take on it. I'm not for just throwing more money at the public school system. For what? For what?
I think it's broken, and it's broken from the top. Especially, you can always throw a big budget at it, and then you say, states, here's what you do with that funds. But a lot of the times I feel like it's mismanaged. But that's part of the reason, guys, that we can't just vote for presidents. We have to vote for the local area people. I'm talking about your jailer, your tax collector, your school librarian. You need to be really checking who's running for these, because you'd be very surprised who's running for these and what their second agenda is. So you need to be very careful about who you're voting for. It's not just a presidential thing. Once again, I'm going to toss this to you, Moya, because you like me. I got one of these faces that just tell you everything I'm thinking, whether I'm talking or not. So I want to hear what you think about the educational aspect.
Okay, yeah. So Miss Lala, I didn't know that school librarians also are on. They run for city council. I didn't know that.
Sometimes in these smaller communities, yes,
that's true. So I do. In my case, I do disagree with Vanessa, because a couple things. So for California, they do it based upon attendance. That's how they're paid for their kids, for their students to go to school. Many other states, they do it based upon your zip code and your geographic region. That's how they fund their schools. So when she's saying that in our community, or in her community, what they do is they have a parent section that supplements what those children get. So that's why they get more. But if you take that money out, so let's say each student is worth $6,500 to the school for what they get in terms of that student going there, then you take that money out, and then what and who's left? So if we're really talking about, so you got to discern, are you talking about your kid, or are you talking about helping the community? Because if you're talking about helping the community and lowering poverty, by you taking your $6,500 out, everybody taking their $6,500 out, meaning they're taking their kids out, and the students that are left are kids who are in foster care, kids whose parents are not well aware of what options they have to them. What do we do with those students? So those students are just left there, but my kid's out? I agree with what MC Fact was saying. Then if you have it, then you need to go ahead and put your kid into a private school. But what they're doing is they're saying, hey, Republicans and conservatives, and they're saying, I don't want to pay my money. I want to use the tax dollars, and I want to use that fund. I want to pull it out, and I want to put my $6,500 wherever I want to put it. And that's when you leave those students there and they suffer. We've seen that plan before. We've done that before, where you have these charter schools that come in, they take these funds, they use them how they want to use them. Your kids are still educated, maybe not, but at least with a public school, you can hold someone accountable to say what's happening. How come my student isn't learning? And then you have different options for them. So I think that it's a larger fact of, let me just pull my funds out and put my funds wherever I want to put my funds. I think we leave those other kids there to perish. And then we're still here having a conversation about our poverty rate is double the amount of whites.
Can I just respond to that really quick? So the average, the average pupil receives $15,633. I'm not advocating to leave kids. What I'm advocating to do is that each pupil is receiving $15,000. So I'm just going to say you take 10 people, that's $150,000. You hire a private teacher. I'm advocating that the public schools start operating more like a private market, so that the students can receive better education. But even different, a pod program. So it's not a charter school. I feel like charter schools are a little bit different. If you take the funding of 10 children and you hire a teacher, that is $150,000. That money will be better spent. Those kids will be better educated than the current system that we have. Our kids are failing. I mean, I went to a school that had metal detectors.
If you pull out the 10, what happens to the other 20 in the class? If you pull out that 100,000,
well, I'm saying that you're not leaving anyone. I'm saying that you're recreating the system. So 10 kids here, 10 kids there, so that it becomes like a 10-to-1 ratio across the board.
But we have to pay teachers around $50,000 to $60,000. How can we possibly pull?
Yeah, some teachers don't even get paid that. Some teachers are getting paid $20,000, $30,000 in Louisiana, Mississippi, Kansas. So if you're able, even if you're able to pay
15,000
teachers
for a
the upper
kid.
60, 70,000, it still creates a better formula than what we've been doing for the last 20 years watching our kids fail. I think it, I mean, that's my opinion.
I
It's an
agree. We do
alternative.
need another formula, but I think it has to be way more inclusive.
And with that, I want to remind you who you're watching. You are watching Fly Nubian Money. And you see, we got solutions out here. Now, what I love about our program is we can have these talks and we might be able to come up with a solution together. When you have two different views, or maybe you find out you have more things in common than you have in different. So listen up. You might have comments too. I want to hear more of these chats. I want to see more of you commenting. I am loving the comments today. I appreciate you being here. We all do. So we want to hear what your views are. But right now you're watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please don't miss a show because it's just way too important. And you know you love us. Yes, you do. So go ahead and type the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. And listen, if you want to be a guest on the show, it's really easy. All you have to do is to email us. And you can do that at info@realvirtual.net. And I'm going to spell that for you. Don't be shy. We want you on here. Come on. info@realvirtual.net. We would love to have you. I want to bring up some of the comments that we have because this is an all-inclusive show. We like to talk with you. G-Man says, I would like to see a push to put trade and tech schools back in urban communities like the late 70s and 80s. I actually agree with that because guess what? If your AC or your heat go out, who you gonna call? That's good money. These plumbers and these AC people are making good money, right? There is money in trade. So you don't necessarily have to push for a four-year college. McFack, we love you. We know you always come in. Thank you for always being a part of this show. We love that you come in and have conversations with us too. Bruce Jones says, I'm riding through a Black poverty area. Education and buying a house ain't on their minds. No, it isn't when you're trying to eat every day. But she also addresses giving tax credits to the middle class. And let's talk about that next. Marlo, do you think that what type of credits do you think should be offered to people of a certain tax bracket? We always say that the middle class is getting smaller and smaller, and it's more of a have and have not situation. So what do you think, and how do you think that Harris could address this issue and actually get the money into the people's hands that really need it?
I'm going to go back to 2016. There was a candidate named Andrew Yang who did not get much traction, but he had really great ideas. One of which, if he were elected or if he were chosen for somebody's cabinet, would have helped the Hollywood actors with this AI stuff, because he was advocating for us to be able to own our name, image, and likeness. One of the things that Andrew Yang suggested, well, two things. One was a UBI. I know that they've done universal basic income programs. I know they had one in Sacramento. They had one here in Shreveport where I live. They were instituted by local mayors who raised private funding. This is actually an MLK idea. This is probably the idea that made them say he has got to go, where people would get a universal basic income credit, similar to what people get in Alaska, who get money back from oil rights. And so I think a universal basic income would be a great thing for working families, based off of the fact that all of these tech companies, this is where the money would come from, because we got to pay for a tax cut, right? It would be based on all of these internet companies that use our data to make more money, right? So you're talking about Amazon with our watching, our shopping, Hulu, Facebook, Instagram, all of them make money off of us, and we don't get anything in return. And for those of us who are business people or who run people's businesses through social media like I do, we have to pay the cost to get that visibility that we want, right? Like if you in the free show of Facebook, you're not really in the show, right? Unless you got in on the viral success before they wanted us all to pay for it. So I think that looking at universal basic income through some type of tech tax. Yes, I'm talking to y'all with all the money who don't pay any taxes in this tech space. I am talking to you. Y'all got to give something back to the people. An education credit would be better for working class families, families with children. I think that giving parents a choice of what they want to do with their child's education is good. But I know, because I worked in a public school system, every parent is not engaged. So both Moya and Vanessa have very good points. We need to find a way to bridge the two, right? The very super hyper engaged parent that's willing to give more and invest more in their child's education because they know what's coming on the backside, and the parent who is living life or surviving, and they are trying to figure it out, or maybe they don't look like they give a damn at all, right? But those children still shouldn't be left behind. So definitely some type of education credit. I will say the problem with public school is policy, and it is testing. Please, everybody, go look up how much money school districts spend on testing. Testing costs billions of dollars to school districts across the country. Hundreds of millions of dollars in your state are being paid to testing companies so they could come back and tell teachers the data that our teachers knew because they knew us, and because they tested us, and because they engaged us in class, and they weren't teaching us how to bubble in the correct answer in 60 minutes or less, right? So I think that looking at standardized testing, challenging school boards as to why this standardized testing exists and why it is needed is crucially important. And we got to get that out of the public school sector, right? They want to say that charter schools, because they don't want Vanessa's great idea of pulling it out and letting parents create these pods. They want the idea of the Walton family owning so many charter schools and educating our children that Frederick Douglass was all about slavery. Like, no, the charter school is definitely not the answer, right? Because there is nothing. There's nothing there with charter schools, y'all. Sorry, I don't like them. I'm not going to be a proponent of them. Not on this stage, not on any. And healthcare credits, of course. Healthcare credits are definitely needed for because healthcare is so expensive, whether you're going to the doctor or just maintaining your health. Healthy people should get, I think health should be incentivized in this country instead of having a sick care system that we currently have.
Agree. The wellness programs would do us a lot of good just in this year, y'all. And we're in August. I have four female friends, 2 with breast cancer, 1 with cervical cancer, and then 1 that had cancer going to her lymph node. And early detection could have helped them, but just going to the doctor was hard to even do. Even with what they had, it was so high, they just couldn't do that. So a lot of this, I believe, would be helped if we had wellness programs. Let's go into another topic, ladies, and it's going to be a woo-woo because this one always is a very sensitive. So let's keep it clean. Comments. Let's talk about immigration. So let's look what Harris says and what the previous administration, and Trump is also running again, of course, we know what the difference is. So immigration says bipartisan Senate compromise that would have included tougher asylum standards and hiring more border agents, immigration judges, and asylum officers was poised to clear Congress before Trump came out in opposition to it. Now, let's be very clear on what she's talking about. She has been labeled by the red side as the immigration czar, which is a complete myth. So I urge you to please do your research on that. Let's look underneath what Trump's ideas for immigration is. Bring back policies he put in place during his first term, like the Remain in Mexico program and Title 42, which placed curbs on migrants on public health grounds. And then also expand the travel ban that originally targeted citizens from 7 Muslim majority countries, and seek to end birthright citizenship for people born in the U.S. whose parents are both in the country illegally. Now, I have issues with his policies, and it's only because he's also gone against his own policies that he's putting in. I mean, just look at his wife. And then she also, both wives. And then also he allowed her parents to come in as well. So I feel like there's a contradiction there. But I do want to hear from you, Athena, on this. Do you believe that this is still a hot topic, and how is it something that we can get control on, but still allow us to be the great American melting pot? And the reason I'm asking you this, Athena, is because I too, I bounce between Florida, California, Portugal. I'm everywhere. I've been everywhere, man. But I do know that Florida is a big state when it comes to immigration, especially during Miami, and you live there. So what are your thoughts on the immigration policies of Harris versus Trump?
Well, as someone who has benefited from the American immigration policy, because I am an immigrant, I got my citizenship in 2012. So I do feel passionate about this topic. Now, I am very much pro in support of current immigration policies such as H-1B visa, having students come over and learn and get sponsored by companies, especially for people to work in traditions and professions that are very, very, very much needed. That's how my father came over here. He was a geologist. Not a lot of people do geology. And he was able to bring us and his family. And then we went through the proper, get the visa, then the green card, then the citizenship, right? What I'm not in support of is just busing a group of people, dropping them off in New York or California or wherever, and bankrolling $10,000 checks and stuff like that. That was not my journey. And it makes me question, why are we doing that? Why are we doing that as far as getting labor in America, right? Because I do think part of the issue is that a lot of people who do those jobs are needed and they're doing it for a lower wage, right? So I think it goes back to part of the issue with education as well. How can we educate American workforce and provide trades and skills that are needed so there's not this push to get cheap labor elsewhere or skilled labor elsewhere? Because it's usually either the top end or the lower end where they're getting the immigrants for. In the middle, there's no need, right? So I think that is something that we need to do and address. And I think we do need to have tighter border security. But I'm very much so not in support of let's get in a bus of people from elsewhere and giving them all these government stipends when our own people don't get that.
Agree. I literally watched California bounce people back and forth, especially the homeless. And speaking of San Pedro, Vanessa, one of the dropping points was San Pedro. People from the LA County directly, LA City proper, would actually put homeless in cars and bring them down to San Pedro and drop them off because they didn't want to deal with them in the city. So we actually have states dealing with it as well as cities dealing with it too, because it can be overwhelming. Okay, boy, this time is just going so fast. I'm trying to get it together and then also address the important things. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that we need to address in this situation about what's going on with Kamala and what her policies are. I do want to address a couple of our comments, but first, you're watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. And if you don't want to miss a show, all you have to do is text the word Queens to 87948, and you will be notified every time we go live. Also, if you want to get your money right and your money tight, because that's what we do, we're called Fly Nubian Money. We have a lot of resources to help you on our website. We have classes and courses and handouts and all sorts of information to help you get your financial house in order. And you can go to flynubianmoney.com and check us out there. Ladies, it is kind of winding down. I know we haven't talked about healthcare. We haven't talked about the war. We haven't talked about NATO and Ukraine. But I know that you ladies have already looked into a lot of these things. So before we move on and we get our final thoughts and your comments on what you think is important to you in our Black communities, as well as where we can find you, I would want to urge everyone who is watching us to please don't just believe what you hear. Please make sure that you go and do your own research on what it is that's important to you and how you can implement that into your voting power. Because let's face it, if you don't vote, you're still voting. One, the two. That's the truth of the matter. And I also want to say that I'm loving the comments, so keep them coming. All right. Phew. Let's just take a deep breath, because I get so excited about this topic because I do care about my country and I'm worried about my country, right? I'm worried about so much division about us. Let's talk about a rapid answer. Let's keep it kind of short. What do you think can be done for the health care of our communities to help them get healthier, other than what we've talked about, and what we can do in our individual communities to help? So let's start with you, Moya. Can't hear you.
I was just reading all the comments. The comments were coming through. So when it comes to healthcare and what needs to be done next, I think it's really important that we also just look at what the opposition doesn't want to do with healthcare, like the fact that they want to repeal the Affordable Care Act. I think that those are things that we have to really, really be looking at.
Well, one of them I want to make sure is our elderly are taken care of any kind of way with their medicines, because I am seeing that direct thing. I mean, if you're going to be able to help them with the Medicare, at least make sure that they can get the medication and don't cut them off at the end of the year. So, it's something to me. I want to make sure that we take care of our elderly and those who definitely need the medication, who can't afford it. That's just my thought. Vanessa, what are your thoughts on that, please?
My thoughts are that we definitely need healthcare. Healthcare should be, it should be, everybody should have a right to healthcare. Drugs should be affordable. It seems like basic human dignity and common sense. And then also, we also need to teach everyone preventative measures of how to take care of themselves, so that the chances of developing diseases that are preventable, high blood pressure, diabetes, can greatly diminish, so that our people aren't relying on drugs to keep them alive. So that involves healthy food, exercise. I think that's a big part of it. Preventative care is easier than when you actually get sick. It's way cheaper. So those are my two takes on it. I think it's a two-part.
My computer is tripping. Gremlin, stay away, stay away. I'm working hard, y'all, on this side. Okay, Moya, what are your thoughts on this as well? I just asked you, didn't I?
I would love to go again, but I only know we have 6 minutes.
I know. Athena, I'm going to ask you about the healthcare part.
Listen, healthcare is very important in this country, because if you cannot afford healthcare, all of that cost ends up going back to as a burden as a taxpayers. Also, healthcare debt is also a big contributor to another reason to why people can't afford homes, because they maybe gotten sick, couldn't afford it, went to the hospital, got sick, and now they have this huge healthcare bill that they cannot afford to pay. So I think that we need to look at, whether it's Trump or Harris, what are they specifically trying to do to help us combat this problem? We are a Western nation. We are a Western civilization. The fact that we have these issues in healthcare, or don't have a basic standard for healthcare that everyone can afford, is a big problem. I do think that, like I said previously, if we have money for war, we have money for healthcare. Like, for wars that we are not even directly in, we have money for healthcare.
That is something that we did not talk about today, y'all. And a lot of people are saying that, we do need to talk about this. So I'm sure there's going to be a part 2. Marlo, I'm going to go straight to you, since I'm on the struggle bus and I want to keep talking, but keep going.
Yeah, I think everyone's already said it. Healthcare is a healthy nation is a prosperous nation, right? If people are losing their homes because they get sick, because their health insurance sucks, if people get sick and all of a sudden their lifestyle has to take a huge turn because Pharma Bro is allowed to charge $10,000 for an insulin shot, or whatever these absorbent costs are that people have decided, oh, what's your life worth to you? Let me charge and just see how much people are willing to pay to stay alive. I think that is the ugliest part of American culture, is the way that the healthcare system has been run into the ground by corporations. I think we got to get corporations out of hospitals. There are a lot of hospitals that are shutting down in small communities, and it is because corporate entities are coming in and deciding that, oh, there's another hospital that is 80 miles from you, and it's more advantageous for our shareholders for us to sell this hospital or lease it to a doctor conglomerate for absorbent amounts of cost. There are doctors who are paying huge rents for medical buildings, and it is costing people their lives, right? Because you have a community clinic today, they can't afford to run tomorrow, they got to shut down. Now your nearest option is a drive away, and maybe you don't have transportation that could take you to the nearest hospital that is requiring a decent car on the highway. So I think that this healthcare situation has to be worked out. The fact that a future Trump administration is still talking about repealing the ACA because of personal feelings for Barack Obama, even though as we are so many years away from the passage of the ACA, and it's been getting better, and it's been getting improvements, including the recent drop in prescription health costs or prescription drug costs, is really, it says a lot more about how people view American people's lives than it says about anything else to me. But definitely getting healthcare costs capped is very important. We have to figure out a way to deal with that, because if not, this nation is not going to be moving forward very long.
Valid points. I think Lala may have dropped some technical issues, but I agree. We need healthcare. I think that's the overall consensus. There we go.
Now she's back from outer space. Lala, are you back? Yes, girl. Okay, so healthcare. We're talking about war right now. So I want some quick thoughts from you, Queens. What do you guys think about United States current policy on war, and what would you like to see coming from these candidates? I'll start with you, Moya.
I know that the protests are planned for the DNC. They are there in Chicago. They're ready to protest. I do believe it's something very important to talk about, but I feel like the pressure is only on one side. I feel like they're only pressuring the Democrats to do something about this war, but they're not holding Trump and the Republicans' feet to the fire about the war. And I feel like it's just because they feel like they can bully the Democrats, and they know the Republicans don't care or not going to listen about their thoughts. So I just feel like I wish it was more pressure. If we're going to pressure America to do something, pressure all of America, not just one side.
I agree, Moya, because I do think, to your credit, that they do not care. They know Trump going to do what he want to do anyway. So why even bother? Marlo, how do you feel about our current state in America on war, and what would you like for us to see coming out of this?
I think that our government has tethered itself to Israel so tightly over the past year since the end of World War II that it's really going to be difficult for any sitting government official to have a policy that condemns Israel and forces them to find a better way forward. Trump can talk all the madness he wants, but I get emails from Mike Johnson every day talking about Israel. Israel's our friend. It's shameful, and Israel and Palestinian protesters and Israel, right? So that's his guy, right? That's his leader on the House side if he were to be elected again. And those people are very, very pro-Israel. There's even a measure in the state of Louisiana to clamp down on protests on college campuses and start arresting people. This is Louisiana. Honey, we don't have a huge Palestinian support group, so y'all don't have to put those kids in jail. Like, you can let them practice peaceful protest. But it is the problematic part is how tightly we've gotten this symbiotic relationship with Israel, and they've always not been able to do any wrong over the years, and they've constantly been pushing, and here we are with this deplorable behavior from Netanyahu. And I'm very interested to see how we're going to get out of it, because we have made such a point to be their best friend through thick and thin. So are the besties going to break up? I don't know, girl.
Listen, Vanessa, do you think that United States is afraid to take a certain stance on the war with Israel because of the Jewish people in America?
I don't know what it is, but I agree with everything Marlo said. Like, it's just, I don't understand it. Additionally, I'm extremely annoyed. We're sending billions of dollars over there. They get free college. Meanwhile, you know, we're out here playing thousands of dollars every month, or wearing student.
Listen, the gremlins are chirping today, honey. Okay, Lola, I'm gonna swing it back to you, girl.
Man, I'm telling you.
Israel. Don't talk about Israel. They get you out the chat, honey.
Are we being doxxed?
Okay.
Are we being doxxed?
I know.
You
They
said
kicked me off quick. I was like, wait
they
a
kicked him
minute.
off and everything. This is crazy. Well, y'all know that if you talk about this stuff on X, they do kind of shut you down on these comments. So yeah. So Vanessa, will you go ahead and please finish your thoughts? And thank you, Athena.
I mean, we can't even have an opinion. But you know, yeah, I think it's not a good relationship. I think that when we've been in a relationship, when we give money, billions of dollars to a country, and we ask them to behave differently, or hey, you got to change up the way that you're doing things, and they basically give us the middle finger and say, no, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, and we're still going to keep collecting your money. I think that, you know, there's a bigger issue there. So, those billions of dollars can go to American children. They can go to American students. They could go to all the issues that we've been talking about. It is I mean, where this war, if that's what you want to call it, is going. I mean, it's sickening. So if we can't control the people that we give money to, or if they won't even listen to our advice, then why are we still in this relationship with them? I could never give billions to a business partner, and I ask them to do something, and they give me the middle finger, and the relationship continues. It would be done immediately.
It's like a toxic ex.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Honey, I'm watching House of Dragons right now, and it all seems to be related to me. That's supposed to be a fantasy story, but somebody give me a dragon, because I think I'm gonna have to go do some fires on some high towers, because this is just ridiculous. I mean, I am definitely a human person. We all are. We don't like war. We don't like it. We don't like to see the things that we see. But at some point, we have to address the fact that the people of our own country are not being served by our country. You want our votes. You tell us you want to all give me $5 and I will work for you, when I can tell you right now that I'm actually fighting a case in Mississippi where Mississippi is not doing its job and the congressman is not calling me back. And so if you want my votes and you're not, you want them so bad, you need to listen to the wants of the people. The people. You represent the people. So if you're not listening, guess what, baby? You got to go. And I'm at the point right now where I feel like all of them need to go. No more career politicians. No more career politicians. You need term limits, baby. And I do mean Supreme Court, President, Congress, you name it. They all need it, including in our states. Because you can't get in there and just ride the wave of the money that whoever is throwing at you for their vote and not listen to the people. And I hope I said that very clearly, because I will shout that from the mountaintops of what we're doing. Because if you're not serving us, you surely are not getting my vote. And I'm not one who votes right down the straight line either. And I know I'm not the only one. If I feel you're the one who's going to be the right candidate, I could care less if you are red or blue. Now, there is a difference between each one of those. There seems to be separation even within those parties. But this is why I always say, please make sure you know who you're voting for. Don't just go off of what someone told you to do, right? So let's address a couple of the comments before we move on. Ladies, this is hot. I know we're going over, but I think everyone is very happy that we're even discussing this, right? So you see what happens when us ladies get together and show what we got. I believe we're a powerful people, and we need to put the power in the right place. Rocket Man, Rocky Matrix says, cut off all foreign aid. What would that look like, Rocky? What would that look like? I want to know what that sounds like to you. Don't just throw out things like that and don't give me a solution. I'm always going to call you on it. What's the solution, my friend? McFax says there's no war during Trump administration. Fact. But the show was a whole lot of other stuff. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't necessarily need to know what my first lady looks like naked. Oh, I digress. BJ, the lawyer, says Noam Chomsky stated the same thing. U.S. and Israel have had a long working relationship. U.S. benefits from working with Israel by having a foothold in the Middle East. I think you see all of us going like this. Okay. Byron Reader said money is power. Yes, my brother, money is power. And that's why you're watching Fly Nubian Money. And I'm going to need y'all to go on over to that website, flynubianmoney.com, and go get those resources that we have for you. Don't say that you don't know what to do when we have something for you. Go on over there and get yourself together in the financial house. Brandon Dumas says Democrats are the party that oppose war, not Republicans. Speak facts. The military industrial complex runs our politicians like AirPack. Maybe, maybe not. When it comes down to it, who's giving the most money to what side is what I want to know, and what power will be given with that as well. Gizmo Duck seems to think, ladies, that we're wasting our time, that we're not talking about real issues. Now, I don't know what's real to you. We're not living in fantasy land with unicorns. I do want dragons, but all of this is important to our community, and I think our ladies are smiling and agreeing me with that. Somebody in this broadcast is not a woman. We ain't going there because we don't do that here. Back up off us. We got this. Common sense is not common, what someone said. And Quicken Dude 09 says Gaza, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Yemen, Iran, all have gotten worse under Biden. All right, that you once again, I'm calling you out. Tell me how. Because I see a lot of them getting the money and a lot of our own communities not getting them. All right, ladies, we have really tackled a lot of that. And guess what? Our president doesn't run those countries. And I can tell you by traveling internationally, the other countries have their own problems. All right. They got their own problems. So you can't blame our administration on other people's administrations as well. So, boy, don't y'all feel like y'all got a lot off of y'all chest today? I do. I feel like at least we address some things that people have been asking us to address. But thing is, you can't address things that weren't put out for us to even research at the time. Now we've had the opportunity to address some of the things that have been put out. So Trump versus Harris, this is our policy face-off. So what is it for us? Because we do have a lot to untackle, but I also believe that you're not going to be able to solve everything in a 4-year term, especially when you jump from one side to the other. Somebody's undoing what somebody did before. So how do we get ahead? All right. So Adrian Smith says, close the border, low tax cuts, rebuild the economy, mass deportation, build that wall. That's what you want to see. I don't believe in the wall. Sorry. BJ, only person in mainstream media I heard mention reparations was Ann Coulter. She said the FBA deserve reparations. We have been talking about reparations for so many years that I feel like it's such an off-topic thing, but let's wind it down, ladies. After all the gremlins decided to come in and fight us, we still got in a good conversation. So ladies, I want to hear your final thoughts. What do you think we need to do now to move forward and to demand these things for whoever gets into the White House? I'll start with you, Moya. And please tell us where we can find you too before we go.
Okay, yes. So I think it's important when we talk about demanded from whoever, there's only one person that's going to ever hear our demands, and that's going to be Vice President Kamala Harris. Donald Trump has already went in there and he's already said who he's going to be on day one with his belief of a dictator. You guys, they have training videos for Project 2025. I know we haven't talked about that, but they are ready to go. So there's only one group that's a viable group. It does not say Black agenda on the top of her policies, but these policies have a true benefit for what they can do in our community. And so my name is Moya. I have a bit.ly link there. I have nails. You can get them free just because you guys are Black Nubian Queen viewers. You can get them free. You just have to pay for shipping and handling. So that's mine.
Queen, I need to know where to get that necklace. Oh my God, I'm over here just drooling off of that necklace because I love it so much. She came with it. What is your final thoughts and where can we find you, Queen?
Listen, I know we talked a lot today, but remember, y'all, this is Scamerica. Okay, so we're just putting out wish lists and hoping for the best, honey. But I hope that I hope that this episode provided a lot of clarity for everyone on where either party stood on main issues. I hope that you guys enjoyed the perspectives of the different queens. I do think that for me, especially in this election, I'm looking at immigration, I'm looking at healthcare, I'm looking at student loan reform, and I'm looking at what they're thinking about doing with this war, honey, because those are the issues that affect me. If you like me, you like my commentary, you just like me in general, you can find me at wewealthwomen.com, at wewealthwomen on all social media platforms, and listen to my podcast at the We Wealth Women podcast.
Awesome stuff, Athena. That is our goddess right there. We love her and her comments. She keeps us laughing all the time. And she always gives us new words that we need to be putting on t-shirts.
Scamerica and Ghetto Rachi t-shirts coming soon.
Told you, another winner. Marlo, what are your final thoughts and where can we find you?
So regardless of what any president says that they will do, they plan to do, they intend to do, they cannot do it without that bicameral government, y'all. Do not forget about the people that are running for Congress in your state. Their policies are the most important policies on the ballot because those are the lawmakers. Look at your school board, look at your city council, look at your state government. I'm going to say this every week from now until November the 5th. If you guys are not doing anything else, pay attention to everything that is beneath the presidential race on the ballot for November 5th. Because if you want to support Kamala Harris, you can't support her without getting the right people in Congress. If you don't want to support Kamala Harris, you can't do that without getting the right people in Congress. So I'm going to always push Congress. If you want to know more about me, you can find me on the internet. I create news, informational, and documentary content under my name, Marlo Layson. Or you can find me on Instagram. I am Olra Marlo. That is my first name backward forward with a little underscore. And those are the places that you can find me.
Love it. And I love what you do for the communities as well, Marlo. All right. What are your final thoughts and where can we find you?
Woo. Well, thank you all, the queens, for this lovely conversation. I loved it. And we definitely need a part 2, queens. But my final thoughts are, we have to show up for our local governments. We have to vote for our Senate, for our Congress. Otherwise, I mean, you can have a president in there. If they don't have a Senate or a Congress, they're pretty much it's pointless, really. So let's not just show up at the presidential votes. Let's show up for our local elections. And I always think that that is the most important thing that we can do. Look at who's sitting on your school board. Look at your taxes. Be concerned about, you, so that you can understand how the people that you put in office will help you. And do your research. You can find me at Winter Remodeling Inc. That's my general contracting company. And if you like to travel a lot, please look me up on Instagram, Vigo Paul. I am a luxury travel advisor, and I like to share my love for travel with everyone.
Love that. And I love to travel as well because I am the international real estate agent and I specialize in Portugal as well. So get out your box, y'all. Get out your box. Here's my final thoughts. Y'all, don't let them tear us down. We may disagree on some things, but it doesn't mean that we have to take the humanity out of being human. I'm always going to advocate for love. I'm always going to advocate for unity. If that sounds woo-woo, don't care. Still going to stand on that platform. So before you open your mouth, you need to think if you're going to hurt someone, you need to keep it closed. So if you can't help, don't harm. And you can find me at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. I have a lot of great information there about home buying and also buying in Portugal, and also some other things educating you about real estate. Because guess what, guys? Buy land, they're not making anymore. And that's how you can get your foot in the door with generational wealth. We'd like to take this time to say thank you. We absolutely love that you're here. We don't take you for granted. Armando, I don't know if you heard us last time, but we appreciate you being here all the time as well. You're always one who talks to us a lot, and we love that you come and support us. Everybody feels like this is a good show. Some felt like we were wasting time. I don't. We finally addressed some questions that people had, although we couldn't address them all. But if you stay tuned and you make sure that you text us, text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. You'll never miss a show, okay? And then make sure that if you have missed something and you only came in late on this one, go back and watch the replay, or make sure you subscribe to us on Spotify, Fly Nubian Money over there as well. Whew! I feel like I got a whole lot off of my shoulder today, but guess what? My black is beautiful, and so is everybody else on this panel, and so is yours too. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, guys. We love you. Peace out. Bye.